In this lesson, we're going to work on converting the sign-in PSD file to HTML and CSS. So let's open up our sign-in PSD into Photoshop. Now I've already got mine opened up here in advance, and I'm just going to zoom in a bit so we can see the design better. And for this design, we're going to ignore the breadcrumbs at the top, and then we just need to create these two different sections. The top part here with the sign-in form, and then the bottom section to take the user to the Create New Account page. Now you'll want to go ahead and export out the little email icon here. I named it as email.gif, and also the password icon, which I named as password.gif. All right, let's get started. Let's switch into our text editor, and let's open up our new account.html file. We'll use this code as our template. So let's select all of this and copy it. We'll close it out, and we'll create a new file. Let's paste in our code, and we'll save this. I'll name it signin.html. Let's go up to the top, and let's change the title here. So this will say sign in. And next, let's scroll down to our main content section, and we're going to get rid of this top horizontal rule, and we're going to get rid of the entire main content section. So we'll just delete that out of there. And make sure to leave the bottom horizontal rule. The reason we're getting rid of the main content section is that it has some padding on the left that'll prevent us from styling this page according to the design. Now in place of it, we'll create two new sections, one for signing in and one for the sign up area. So let's create a section with an ID of signin-form. Then we'll create another section with an ID of sign up. Let's start in the sign in form section. I'll put a comment here saying end sign-in form. And if we look at our design, you can see we need this heading here of I have an account. Let's create an H1 tag, and we'll put in the heading I have an account. Then afterwards, we just need our form. Let's create the form tag. This will just submit to a hash, and we'll set the method to post. Now if we look at our form, you can see that the input fields have our little icons. So we're going to put our form fields inside of a paragraph, and we'll need an image tag in there as well. So we need one for the email address and one for the password. So let's create our paragraph tag, and inside of it we need our image for the little icon, plus we need the input form field. Let's expand this, and I'm just going to fix up the indentation here a bit, and let's put in the image source. So that's image/email.gif. We'll change the alt text to say email address. Then for the input form field, let's change its type to email. We'll set the name attribute to email. And now instead of using the placeholder attribute, we're going to use the value attribute since we don't have labels and the placeholder doesn't really work in Internet Explorer. So we'll set the value to email address. And that's it for the first form field. Let's copy this, and we'll paste it below. And let's change this over to use the password GIF. We'll change the alt text to say password. We'll change the form field's type to password. We'll change the name, and let's set the value as some asterisks. As you can see, that's what was used in the design here. Now we just need to create our sign-in button. So after our password form field, let's create a button tag. And I'm going to set its type to submit. And we'll give this a class using the secondary cartBTN class. And inside of the button, we'll set the text to say sign in all caps. So that's it for the sign-in form. Now let's work on the sign up section. So we're going to need this first header here saying I'm a new customer. Let's scroll down, and let's put a comment here at the end saying end sign up. And let's create an H2 tag, and the heading just says I'm a new customer. Then after that, we need the second heading here. And you can see that it breaks down onto a new line, so we'll want a BR tag. Let's create that as an H3 tag. We'll create an h3, and inside of it we'll want a BR tag. So the first part of the heading says you can create a free account in just a few simple steps. Let's put that in here. There we go. Then after the BR tag, we want click below to begin. Let's put that in here. And that's it for the headings. Now we need a link linking to the create new account page. Let's create that. So after the headings, let's create a link, and we'll give this the default btn class. We'll just have this submit to a hash symbol for now. And then the linked text will say create new account in all caps. And that's it for the HTML. Let's take a look at it in the browser. We can go to localhost/ecom PSD to HTML. And this is the signin.html page. There we go. Here's our page. You can see our buttons are already styled because we used our pre-existing classes. Now we just need to style the rest of the sign-in form section and the sign-up section. Let's switch back into our text editor, and let's open up our main.css file. Then we'll scroll down to right above our footer styles. Here we are. Let's create a new comment for the sign-in page. And the first thing we need to do is center them both on the page. And we also need a little bit of padding, and we'll set the color for the text. And we'll also put this to position relative, as we're going to use CSS to position the little icons inside of the form fields. So let's do that. We'll go back into our text editor, and we can target the sign-in form section and the sign-up section. We'll set text align to center. We'll set some padding here, so we want 10 pixels on the top, 0 on the right, 30 pixels on the bottom, and then 0 on the left. And that should make it look like our design here. Let's set the color for the text. We're going to use that dark blue that we've been using, the 2E373F. And then we'll set position to relative. Let's take a look at this. We'll save it, go into the browser, and refresh. There we go. We're partially there. Now let's add the background color to the sign-in form section. If we look at the design, you can see that it's this light gray color. So let's do that. We'll target just the sign-in form ID, and we'll set the background color to F6, F6, F6. Let's save it and take a look. We'll refresh. There we go. Now let's style our H1 and H2 headings. So if we look at the design, we can see that they're smaller and they're not bolded, and we have a little padding pushing the form away and pushing the other heading away. Actually, I believe that would be margin pushing them away. So let's style that. We can target the sign-in form ID and its H1 heading. Then we can target the sign-up ID and its H2 heading. We'll set the font size to 22 pixels. We'll set the font weight to normal. And then we'll add a little bit of margin to the bottom of 20 pixels. Let's take a look at that. We'll refresh the page. There we go. That looks better. Now let's style our form input fields. So if we look at the design, you can see that they're a little wider with some padding. We have this border with some rounded corners, and our little icons appear inside of the form field. So let's style this. Let's first position the icons inside of the form field. So we'll use the sign-in form ID. We'll target the form tag and then the images that are inside of it. We'll set position to relative, and then we'll just move them in 25 pixels. And that should put them inside of the input fields for us. Now let's style the form inputs. So we'll target the sign-in form and its input tags. Let's set their width to 300 pixels. We'll give them a little bit of padding. So we want 10 pixels on the top, the right, and the bottom, and then 30 pixels on the left side. And that'll give us enough room for the icons to fit inside of the form inputs. Now let's add a little bit of margin to the bottom. We'll put that to 10 pixels. We'll give it a border. This will be 1 pixel solid, and we'll use that light gray color of EEE. Then let's round the corners using border radius. We'll set that to 10 pixels, and we'll duplicate it a couple of times. We'll change this one to be Moz border radius, and this one to WebKit border radius. And lastly, for the form inputs, we'll set the color to C3, C3, C3. That's just a gray color. Let's check it out in the browser. We'll refresh our page, and there we go. You can see our inputs look pretty good. Our icons are inside of there, and it looks pretty much just like the design. Let's now style up the H3 heading here in the sign up section. Let's go back into our text editor, and we'll target the sign up ID and the H3 heading. We'll set the font size to 14 pixels just to make it a little smaller. We'll set the font weight to normal, and then we'll add a little bit of margin onto the bottom of 50 pixels. And with that, we're finished with the sign-in page. Let's switch into the browser and take a look at the final result. Let's refresh, and there we go. It looks pretty awesome. So that's it for the HTML and CSS for the sign-in page. I'll see you in the next lesson.